a king, a god, an emperor, a ruler. You want to be this leading man, this commander-in-chief. Well, good luck, I say, and more power to you. Because what this world needs is more leaders, more strong, scrupulous, diligent, and dedicated and disciplined men. What this world needs is more men like you, more men dedicated to their craft, to excellence. Men who do not accept weaknesses, men who have weaknesses, but men who acknowledge these weaknesses within themselves, these inadequacies. Call them out. Look at them face to face and subject them to vehemence, to dedicated and disciplined intent. Because you see, if you want to become this ruler that you say you want to be, this leader, this king, this god, you must acknowledge the inadequacies, the unpropitious propensities within yourself, so that you may not only know who you are, but know who your enemy is, your opposition. You must embrace this malevolence within yourself, this darkness. You must crawl deep down into the deepest pits of hell. Look these skeleton men deep in the eyes. Acknowledge the immorality, the repugnance within their souls, and assimilate this into yourself. Bear the burden of this devilish mischievousness, this cunning, so that you may rise anew out of the calcified earth, regenerated, rejuvenated, transmutated, transformed, and individuated, so that you may rise, ascend into the cloudless sky, where you may sit next to the leaders who came before you, the gods, the emperors, the rulers. You must acknowledge this darkness within yourself so that you may bear the burden of it, not only for yourself so that you may become strong and intelligent and thorough, but so that you may bear this burden for your men, your soldiers, and the people who follow you, so that you may become the best leader that you may possibly be, so that you may become a hero. And you see, being a hero isn't always sprinkled with glitter. You're not always showered with gifts and treasures. But as a hero, life must be agonizing, harsh, and difficult. Because you see, the life of a hero at the beginning of his story, he must eat shit. He must go through trials and tribulations, harshness and pain. He must endure cuts and bruises, punches. He must become calloused, and he must embrace this darkness, assimilate it into his skin, so that he may become tough, so that he may become like stone. And in so doing, what the hero has done, what the hero has endured, makes him, or rather, builds him up into what is now a strong, diligent, scrupulous, and dignified soul. And in looking at him, this hero that you have now become through the assimilation of this darkness, what you have now become is formidable and dangerous. And you see, what makes the hero good is that he is aware deep within himself that he is capable of this devilish mischievousness of his enemy, of this unscrupulousness. He is aware that he is capable of this, that he inside of himself has the propensity for evil, for malevolence. And because he is aware of this, he has the upper hand on his enemy. Because he can look at his enemy and understand what is happening, what is gesticulating inside of his enemy. This darkness. This gives him the upper hand because he is aware of what his enemy is capable of, and he also is aware that he is capable of doing exactly or even worse than what his enemy is capable of doing. But you see, this is what makes the hero moral, or morally justified in his actions, because although he is aware that he is capable of evil, he chooses the greatest good, which in turn I would say makes him moral. Although we will not discuss ethics in particular, or rather extensively, and what makes someone morally justified in their actions. That is a different discussion all in itself. But what I'm speaking about is essentially what it means to become a leader, at least from my particular perspective. And I think what it means to become a leader, a leading man, a commander-in-chief, is that a person must acknowledge their own shadow within themselves, which is not just in the outside world, but inside of themselves. And in doing this, you must not project your shadow outwardly to the world, or play the victim and blame other people. You must, as I said, climb deep down to the deep void of the abyss. Acknowledge this malevolence within yourself and rise anew out of the ashes, individuated. And now that you have done this, you are on the path to becoming a leader or a hero. Because you see, the hero is aware of this. He is also evil, as is everybody else. But you see, the common individual does not realize that they too are in fact capable of malevolence, of wrongdoing. And we see this in particular in dogmatism, in religion, and political leanings. We see this essentially everywhere in the world. Because you see what people want to do, or how people want to feel internally, is virtuous. They want to feel right, and they want to think that the opposition is wrong, that they are the good ones, and that the opposing force is the bad one. And this is what you would call projection or shadow projection. And Carl Jung talked about this rather extensively in his book, The Undiscovered Self. Because you see, people would rather believe that the people around them are the bad people, that they themselves are the good ones. But you see, in order to be a hero, a ruler, and a leading man, you must understand that you, too, are capable of wrongdoing, of inflicting cost. And once you are aware of this, you then have the choice to decide what is morally justified to you and what is the greatest good. And I don't think that you can even be moral without first acknowledging this deep darkness within yourself, your shadow. And that, I think, is my essential point. And I think that I have, well, at least I hope, I've done a good job of explaining this. At least from my perspective. And hopefully, listening to me, you will have gained some sort of knowledge. And hopefully I've helped in furthering your understanding. But you see, what I'm trying to say here is if you want to be a ruler, a king, or a leading man, an emperor, or a commander-in-chief, you must be able to see this malevolence around you in political systems, in democracies, in oligarchies, in communist countries, in dictatorships. You must see what is happening around you, because you see, this is a quality and a characteristic of a leader. He is pragmatic, he is diligent, he is contemplative, he is scrupulous, he is thorough, he is constantly paying attention. And this you must do. You must not only pay attention to the outside world, to people, to the masses, to governments, but also to yourself, your own unconscious. As Jung said, you must make the unconscious conscious. Because you see, if the unconscious remains conscious, then it will play a certain role in instigating your decisions and behavior. So, you want to be a king, a ruler. Well, this is a difficult thing to do. And it takes time and effort and discipline. But I promise you, it is worth it. It is worth the effort. And I think the problem in our society today is that as men, and women too, we are caught up in this system where people are addicted to that dopamine kick and that dopamine rush in their coffee, in their energy drinks, and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and Twitter. We live in a society addicted to instant gratification. We live in a society addicted to pornography and addicted to laziness. So what I'm calling for and what I'm suggesting that we strive for as a society focused on self-improvement, on bettering themselves, and on acknowledging this deep darkness within themselves so that they don't project it on to the outside world. Because you see, at its core, capitalism, democracy, communism, war, it is all essentially predicated on the idea that the opposition is evil and that it is your right to take. Because you see, you would rather have what the enemy wants because you believe that you are moral and virtuous and that they are evil and not. And this is the essential premise. And this is basically how people operate. They are so unconscious of themselves that they want to believe that what they are doing is right and morally justified. Or, even worse, they are so unconscious of themselves that they do not even care what they are doing, and they don't even care to think about the fact that what they are doing could potentially be degradative, which seems to be the case. Because you see, if we look at capitalism as a whole, or just any form of government, what is happening is that, especially in capitalism, it's essentially based upon taking and creating. We want a society that's continuously churning so that it can continuously function. And that's essentially, how it works. Should just speak briefly. But the problem with that is it's not sustainable. It's degradative and it's extractive. What we're doing is taking down the Amazon rainforest. What we're doing is polluting the ocean to a point to where there's land masses of plastic the size of states. What we're doing is destroying habitats. What we're doing is driving mass extinction. What we're doing is pumping so much carbon dioxide into the air that was locked up in the humus of forests that it's causing rises in temperature, which are not necessarily, let's not say that, I don't want to say that global warming is an unnatural process. It's a natural process, but what we're doing currently is speeding up that process of climate change, which we're seeing the outcome of that play out right now. We're destroying habitats. We're taking down forests. We're destroying the planet. We're driving animals into mass extinction. We're fucking with the whole entire system. We don't revere the very soil that we walk on. We don't attribute any sort of reverence to the animals in the nature around us. What our governments want, what these big corporations and businesses want, is more. More money, more fancy houses, more fancy parties, more fancy paintings. What they want is more decadence. What they want is more. But what they want is degradative. What they're doing is extractive and unpropitious to the planet. What they're doing is unconducive. It is not advantageous. I don't want to necessarily say that it is wrong, because who am I to say what is good and bad? But what I'm saying is that what we are doing is clearly not sustainable. And to re-elucidate, war is essentially a fundamental axiom and result of this very behavior. Because you see, we live in a world which is full of egoism, because there is a populace which is so unaware of itself that it fails to recognize that everything is one. We are all the same. We are all part of the same system, the same universe, the same cosmos. We share the same planet. We are made out of the same stuff, which is matter. We are all made out of quantum particles. We are all the same at our very core. But you see, this is at the micro level. But at the macro level, there is a war going on. And there has been since the dawn of time. And the real question is, are we going to kill ourselves? Or are we going to transcend and individuate? And finally come to the realization that we are in fact part of this planet and not separate from it. Because you see, how we are treating the planet right now is that we are going about or moving in a way that is obviously indicative of our very intemperance. Because you see, we are going about, or rather operating in a way that it becomes clearly evident that the typical human being, well, maybe not, let's say the typical human being, but the typical organization moves in a way that it becomes clearly evident that they do not care, that they do not realize that they are one with the planet. They feel themselves separate, so they think that they can take. We are at war with the planet because we view it as separate from us. We cut down trees that do not need to be cut down. We plant monocrop cultures and spray chemicals all over our food because we have degraded the soil so much that there is no life left in it. And the only way for it to grow is to spray herbicides and pesticides on it. And then we feed that to our ever-growing populace. And there is an increasing demand for food because we are obsessed with propagation, with more. And we are living in a society which is not sustainable. So I say, you want to become a leader, a ruler, a king, an emperor. Well, you must think like this. You must view the world with open eyes. You must see it. You must call in discipline, pragmatism, rationality, and wisdom. You must touch the earth and feel its wisdom. You must sit down and write and learn. You must train your body and be strong. You must read and write. Train your brain so that you are intelligent. You must train. And you must continuously do this. So I say, you want to become a leader, a hero, a king. Well, good luck.